Cruelty, at its core, is not born from strength, but from weakness. It is a manifestation of fear, vulnerability, fear of difference, fear of losing power. Those who act with cruelty often do so to shield themselves from these fears, constructing walls of harshness and domination to project strength that they do not truly possess. Beneath the surface of every cruel act lies an individual grappling with an inner void, a deep insecurity that drives them to inflict pain on others as a means of regaining control or asserting superiority. The cruel person is in many ways a tragic figure. They are blind to the truth that cruelty is self-destructive. In trying to dominate others, they enslave themselves to their basest instincts. Cruelty is born of pride, a warped pride that cannot tolerate dissent or imperfection. It is also fueled by a lack of empathy, an inability or refusal to see others as fully human, with feelings, dreams, and dignity equal to their own. This dehumanization becomes the cornerstone of their actions, allowing them to justify their harm. But the irony is that this dehumanization ultimately reflects back on them. In denying the humanity of others, they chip away at their own. Fear also plays a significant role. When one feels powerless or threatened, cruelty becomes an easy outlet. It can serve as a form of misguided self-defense, an attempt to silence the discomfort of inadequacy by overpowering someone weaker. But true strength is never found in tearing others down. Strength lies in the ability to rise above fear, to meet vulnerability with compassion, and to confront difference with understanding. Those who are cruel have not mastered these virtues. Instead, they are controlled by their fears and insecurities, even if they cannot admit it. Yet, cruelty carries within it the seeds of its own undoing. Every act of harm leaves a mark, not just on the victim, but also on the perpetrator. For cruelty, though it seeks to inflict pain on others, cannot help but scar the soul of the one who commits it. The shadow of their actions lingers, whispering reminders of what they have done and what they have become. And while they may try to suppress these whispers, they will find that the weight of their deeds grows heavier with time, inescapable and relentless. It is a hard truth, but a necessary one. Cruelty, far from being an expression of power, is a symptom of its absence. It reveals the cracks in a person's character, the unhealed wounds they carry, and the fears they refuse to confront. And in this we find a lesson for all of us to guard against cruelty in our own hearts, and to recognize that the path of kindness, though more challenging, is the only path that leads to true strength, peace, and fulfillment. Cruelty is never confined to the moment it is enacted, nor is its impact limited to the immediate victim. It ripples outward, touching the lives of countless others in ways often unseen and unmeasured. Like a stone dropped into a still pond, the harm spreads far beyond the initial point of contact, creating waves that can reverberate through relationships, communities, and even generations. The first and most immediate ripple of cruelty is, of course, the pain inflicted on its direct victim. Whether physical, emotional, or psychological, the harm caused by cruelty leaves scars. For the person on the receiving end, the effects can be profound and long-lasting. Cruel words, for instance, may echo in the mind for years, chipping away at self-esteem and fostering feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. Acts of physical cruelty can leave not only visible wounds, but also a deep sense of vulnerability and fear. Even seemingly small acts of meanness can plant seeds of insecurity or sadness that take root and grow over time. Yet the effects of cruelty do not end with the victim. When someone is hurt, they often carry the pain with them into their interactions with others. A person who has been treated cruelly may become guarded, mistrustful, or even resentful, and this can strain their relationships with family, friends, and colleagues. In some cases, the victim may unconsciously replicate the cruelty they experienced, perpetuating the cycle of harm. For instance, A child who is bullied at school may act out against their siblings at home, or an employee who is humiliated by a manager may, in turn, lash out at their subordinates. In this way, the original act of cruelty creates a chain reaction, spreading harm far beyond the initial incident. The ripple effect of cruelty also extends to those who witness it. Bystanders to cruelty, whether they are family members, friends, or strangers, are not unaffected. Seeing someone else treated harshly can evoke feelings of helplessness, guilt, or even fear. Bystanders may question their own role in the situation, wondering whether they should have intervened or done more to prevent the harm. In some cases, the experience of witnessing cruelty can lead to a sense of disillusionment or cynicism, particularly if the cruelty goes unchallenged. This emotional toll on witnesses is another way in which cruelty's impact multiplies, touching lives beyond the immediate victim. Moreover, cruelty can have a corrosive effect on the broader social fabric. When acts of cruelty become normalized or go unchecked, they create an environment where harm is tolerated or even expected. This can erode trust and cooperation within communities as people become more guarded and less willing to extend kindness or vulnerability. Over time, the presence of cruelty within a society can foster a culture of fear and division, making it harder for individuals to connect and work together for the common good. In this sense, the ripple effect of cruelty is not only personal but also collective, shaping the dynamics of entire groups or communities. Cruelty's ripple effect can even stretch across generations. A parent who acts cruelly toward their child, for instance, may pass down patterns of harm that continue into the next generation. That child, shaped by their experiences, may struggle to break free from the cycle of pain and may inadvertently replicate similar behaviors with their own children. This intergenerational transmission of cruelty highlights its far-reaching and enduring nature. What begins as a single act can, over time, influence the lives of people who were not even born when the initial harm occurred. Yet perhaps the most insidious aspect of cruelty's ripple effect is the way it can dull our collective sensitivity to suffering. When cruelty becomes pervasive, people may begin to accept it as a normal part of life. This desensitization can lead to apathy, making it harder to recognize and address harm when it occurs. In this way, cruelty not only multiplies its immediate impact, but also lays the groundwork for further harm by eroding our capacity for empathy and compassion. Understanding the ripple effect of cruelty is essential if we are to counteract its spread. Each act of cruelty sets in motion a chain of events that can lead to far greater harm than we might initially realize. By recognizing this, we can begin to see the importance of interrupting the cycle wherever possible. Acts of kindness and compassion, like cruelty, also have ripple effects, but they create waves of healing and connection rather than pain. When we choose to respond to cruelty with empathy, when we stand up for those who are hurt, and when we strive to break the cycle of harm in our own lives, we can begin to counteract its effects and create ripples of positive change instead. In the end, the ripple effect of cruelty serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our actions. No act of harm is ever truly isolated. It reverberates through the lives of others in ways we may never fully see or understand. This truth calls us to a higher standard of behavior, urging us to act with kindness, empathy, and integrity, not only for the sake of those immediately around us, but for the sake of the broader world we are all a part of. Only by breaking the chain of cruelty can we hope to create a world where the ripples we send out are ones of love, healing, and hope. Conscience is one of the most profound and unrelenting aspects of the human experience. It is the quiet voice within that serves as both guide and judge, urging us toward what is right and reminding us when we have faltered. For those who commit cruelty, the conscience is an unshakable witness, bearing silent testimony to every act of harm and wrongdoing. Though cruelty may bring a fleeting sense of power or satisfaction, it is the conscience that remains long after, questioning, accusing, and illuminating the gap between one's actions and one's moral obligations. It cannot be silenced or ignored indefinitely, for it is woven into the very fabric of our being. At its core, the conscience is a deeply personal compass. It is shaped by a combination of innate moral instincts, personal experiences, and societal teachings. While the specifics of what we consider right and wrong may vary across cultures and individuals, the presence of a moral compass is universal. This internal guide is what enables us to distinguish between kindness and cruelty, justice and injustice. For those who act with cruelty, their conscience becomes a source of inner conflict, challenging their justifications and exposing the emptiness of their rationalizations. The power of the conscience lies in its persistence. A person who has acted cruelly may attempt to suppress or ignore their conscience, but this is a temporary reprieve at best. The human mind has an extraordinary capacity for self-deception, yet the conscience remains unyielding. It may surface in moments of quiet reflection, in dreams, or even in unexpected flashes of guilt during daily life. This relentless nature is what makes the conscience such a potent force. It does not allow wrongdoing to be easily forgotten, nor does it permit the perpetrator to fully escape the weight of their actions. One of the most profound ways in which the conscience manifests is through guilt. Guilt is the emotional response to the recognition that one has violated their moral code or caused harm to others. While unpleasant, guilt is also a powerful teacher. It forces individuals to confront the consequences of their actions, not only for those they harm, but also for themselves. Guilt can be an overwhelming burden, a constant reminder of what should have been done differently. For the cruel, this burden often grows heavier with time as the distance from the act provides greater clarity about its impact. The conscience is not limited to guilt alone, it also carries the power to evoke shame. While guilt is often tied to specific actions, shame speaks to a deeper sense of personal failure. It is the recognition that cruelty is not just an isolated act, but a reflection of one's character in that moment. This awareness can be deeply unsettling, as it challenges the way individuals view themselves. The cruel person, confronted by their conscience, may find it difficult to reconcile their actions with their desire to see themselves as good or virtuous. This internal dissonance can lead to a profound sense of unease, even if they try to mask it outwardly. In some cases, the conscience drives individuals to seek redemption. The weight of guilt and shame can become so unbearable that it compels them to acknowledge their wrongs and make amends. This is where the conscience reveals its transformative potential. While it serves as a witness to cruelty, it also offers a pathway to change. The same inner voice that condemns wrongdoing also encourages repentance and the pursuit of justice. It urges individuals to take responsibility for their actions, to seek forgiveness from those they have harmed, and to commit to a better path moving forward. In this sense, the conscience is not merely a source of judgment, but also a source of hope and renewal. Yet, not everyone listens to their conscience. Some attempt to drown it out through distraction, denial, or further acts of harm. They may surround themselves with justifications or align themselves with others who validate their actions. However, these efforts are ultimately futile. The conscience, though it may be dulled or ignored for a time, cannot be eradicated. Its voice may grow faint, but it does not disappear. It waits patiently, resurfacing when least expected, often with greater intensity. This is why cruelty haunts those who perpetrate it. Their conscience ensures they cannot fully escape the truth of their actions. The role of the conscience is both profound and inescapable. It acts as a mirror, reflecting the moral weight of our choices and holding us accountable when we fail to act with integrity. For the cruel, it is a reminder that their actions are not without consequence, even if those consequences are not immediately visible. The conscience does not forget, nor does it allow the soul to rest until acknowledgement and atonement are sought. It is an enduring presence, urging us toward the path of kindness and reminding us of the universal truth that our actions, for better or worse, leave an indelible mark on the world and ourselves. Ultimately, the conscience is a gift, even for those who have acted with cruelty. It is a compass that can lead us back to what is good and true if we are willing to heed its call. It challenges us to rise above our baser instincts and to strive for a life marked by compassion and integrity. For those who have caused harm, listening to the conscience is the first step toward healing, not just for those they have wronged, but for their own fractured souls. In this way, the conscience stands as both witness and guide, a constant reminder of our shared humanity and our capacity for redemption. The psychological consequences of cruelty run deep, affecting not just the individuals who endure it, but also those who commit it. While cruelty may appear, on the surface, to be an assertion of dominance or strength, it often leaves behind a trail of profound inner turmoil in its perpetrators. The human mind, despite its ability to rationalize and justify harmful actions, is not immune to the moral and emotional repercussions of inflicting pain on others. Over time, guilt, shame, and regret begin to surface, creating a heavy burden that can weigh on the conscience and affect one's sense of self. Guilt is one of the most immediate and pervasive consequences of cruelty. It arises when a person recognizes that their actions have violated their moral code or caused unnecessary harm to another. While some individuals may attempt to suppress or ignore this feeling, guilt has a way of lingering, seeping into quiet moments and serving as a reminder of past wrongs. It is not merely an abstract emotion. Guilt is tied to specific actions and their consequences, making it deeply personal and inescapable. For those who commit cruelty, guilt often grows stronger with time as they come to understand the full extent of the pain they have caused. Unlike guilt, which is tied to a specific act, shame strikes at the core of one's identity. It is not just about recognizing that one has done something wrong. It is about feeling that one is inherently flawed or unworthy because of those actions. Shame transforms cruelty from an external act into an internal reckoning, challenging the perpetrator's view of themselves. Even individuals who initially dismiss or justify their cruel behavior may find themselves grappling with shame as they reflect on their actions. The realization that they have acted in ways that are contrary to their values or harmful to others can create a profound sense of self-disappointment and inner conflict. Regret is the culmination of guilt and shame, and it often emerges as a longing to undo the harm that has been done. It is the recognition that cruelty has created wounds both in others and within oneself that cannot be easily healed. Regret brings with it a sense of loss, the loss of integrity, the loss of trust, and in some cases the loss of relationships that have been damaged or destroyed by acts of harm. For the perpetrator, regret is a painful acknowledgement of missed opportunities to choose kindness or compassion instead of cruelty. It is a recognition that their actions have left an indelible mark, one that cannot simply be erased. These psychological consequences do not exist in isolation. Guilt, shame, and regret often feed into one another, creating a cycle of emotional pain that can be difficult to escape. A person who feels guilty about their actions may also feel ashamed of who they have become as a result of those actions. This shame, in turn, amplifies their regret as they begin to see more clearly the ways in which their cruelty has harmed both themselves and others. The interplay of these emotions can create a profound sense of inner turmoil, one that lingers long after the act of cruelty itself has passed. For some, the weight of these emotions becomes a catalyst for change. Guilt can drive individuals to seek forgiveness and make amends, while shame can inspire a desire to become a better person. Regret, though painful, can serve as a powerful motivator to avoid repeating the same mistakes in the future. In this sense, the psychological consequences of cruelty can lead to growth and redemption, provided the individual is willing to confront their actions honestly and take responsibility for the harm they have caused. However, Not everyone responds to these emotions in a constructive way. Some individuals may attempt to escape the weight of guilt, shame, and regret by doubling down on their cruelty, rationalizing their actions, or blaming others for the harm they have caused. This refusal to confront their inner turmoil only prolongs their suffering, as the unresolved emotions continue to fester beneath the surface. Over time, this avoidance can lead to further psychological distress, including anxiety, depression, and a sense of alienation from others and from oneself. The psychological consequences of cruelty also extend beyond the individual, affecting their relationships and their broader social interactions. A person weighed down by guilt, shame, and regret may find it difficult to form genuine connections with others, as their inner conflict creates a barrier to vulnerability and trust. They may withdraw from relationships or struggle to fully engage with those around them, fearing judgment or rejection. In this way, the pain they have caused others becomes a source of pain for themselves, creating a cycle of isolation and emotional suffering. Ultimately, the psychological consequences of cruelty serve as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our actions and our inner lives. While cruelty may bring temporary gratification or a fleeting sense of power, its long-term impact is far more destructive. Guilt, shame, and regret are not punishments imposed from the outside. They are the natural and inevitable responses of a conscience that recognizes the harm that has been done. For those who commit cruelty, these emotions are both a burden and an opportunity, a burden that must be carried, but also an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to choose a better path moving forward. In the end, the psychological weight of cruelty underscores the importance of kindness and compassion. Acts of harm leave scars not only on those who suffer them, but also on those who commit them. By choosing to act with empathy and integrity, we not only spare others from pain, but also protect ourselves from the heavy and enduring burden of guilt, shame, and regret. In this way, kindness becomes not just a moral choice, but also a deeply personal one, offering a path to peace and wholeness that cruelty can never provide. Acknowledging and repenting for wrongdoing is one of the most profound moral responsibilities that humans carry. When harm has been inflicted, whether through intentional cruelty or unintentional negligence, the failure to take responsibility only deepens the wound. Acknowledgement and repentance are not just acts of reconciliation with others, but are also essential for restoring harmony within oneself. They are the antidote to the inner turmoil caused by guilt, shame, and regret, and they represent a commitment to growth and transformation. To ignore this responsibility is to deny the humanity of both the harmed and the one who has caused harm, perpetuating a cycle of pain and alienation that only acknowledgement can begin to break. The first step in fulfilling this responsibility is acknowledgement. To acknowledge wrongdoing is to face it honestly and without excuses. This is no easy task, as it requires a person to confront their own moral failings and the pain they have caused. The tendency to rationalize, justify, or minimize harm can be strong, as it offers a temporary shield against the discomfort of guilt. However, true acknowledgement cannot coexist with denial. It demands a willingness to stand in the light of truth, however uncomfortable that may be. It means saying, yes, I did this. Yes, it caused harm. And yes, I take full responsibility for it. Acknowledgement is not simply an internal process, it must also be expressed outwardly. Those who have been harmed deserve to hear the truth, unvarnished and unfiltered. They deserve to see the person who caused them pain take responsibility without shifting blame or making excuses. This act of verbal acknowledgement is a powerful step in repairing broken trust and validating the experience of the one who has suffered. It communicates respect and a recognition of the other's humanity, two things that cruelty often strips away. Without acknowledgement, the wounds of harm fester, as the injured party is left to carry the burden of their pain alone, unrecognized and unresolved. Yet acknowledgement alone is not enough. It must be followed by repentance, a process that goes far beyond merely saying, "I'm sorry." True repentance is a transformative act, requiring the individual to not only feel remorse, but also commit a change. It is a declaration that the harm done will not be repeated, and that steps will be taken to ensure it does not happen again. Repentance is an active process, not a passive one. It demands introspection, humility, and a willingness to make amends. At the heart of repentance is the recognition that actions have consequences, not just for others, but for oneself. When a person harms another, they also harm their own integrity and moral standing. Repentance is a way of reclaiming that integrity, of realigning oneself with the values and principles that guide a life of goodness and truth. It is a way of restoring balance, not by erasing the past, because that is impossible, but by demonstrating a sincere commitment to learn from it. In this way, repentance becomes a bridge between the harm that has been done and the healing that is still possible. Making amends is a critical part of repentance. Words of apology, no matter how felt, are insufficient on their own. Actions must accompany them. Making amends means taking concrete steps to repair the damage that has been caused, whether that damage is physical, emotional, or relational. It requires listening to the needs of the harmed party and doing everything within one's power to meet those needs. Sometimes, making amends may also involve accepting consequences, such as losing privileges, enduring public accountability, or making reparations. These actions are not punishments, but opportunities to demonstrate the sincerity of one's repentance. Importantly, acknowledgement and repentance are not guaranteed to result in forgiveness, nor should they be approached with that expectation. Forgiveness is a gift that the harmed party may or may not be ready to offer, and it is not the responsibility of the perpetrator to demand or expect it. The purpose of acknowledgement and repentance is not to absolve oneself, but to do what is right, regardless of the outcome. It is an act of moral courage, a way of taking ownership of one's actions and striving to live with integrity moving forward.